Kansas City, it's time to get ready for winter. And this winter, the KSHB 41 weather team is committed to highlighting what matters to you.
As we move through the fall season, we've started seeing signs of what lies ahead. But before we look forward, let's take a look back. To put it simply, last winter was warm and wet.
Yeah, wet, but not white. The last year's snow total was 13.2 inches, when we normally see 18.2 inches. And we had an extra amount of 5.27 inches of liquid rainfall, making it a very wet winter, Cassie.
Yeah, and in terms of temperatures, it was warm. Last winter, the 7th warmest in Kansas City's history. We only saw one Arctic air outbreak in January, and then we just flipped the switch to the warmest February in Kansas City's history for average maximum temperature.
And stay tuned. A little later in this special, we're going to talk more about what our thoughts are for this winter. Now, winter temperatures aren't the only things that have been heating up around Kansas City. We've noticed a hot streak of northern light sightings in our area. And tonight, we kick off our special with a little magic, thanks to the Aurora Borealis. Did you spot the northern lights like these back in May of this year? An incredible example of the Aurora Borealis, even as far south as Kansas City. This shot, of course, north of Kansas City and away from the city lights. But let's go a little farther south. How about Olathe, Kansas? Rick Vaughn even got an amazing angle, even through the city lights, where we're able to check out some pinks and greens in the sky. This so happened to be the strongest solar storm that we have seen in 2 decades. The northern lights back in May, as visible as far south as Florida. And what about our most recent northern light sighting around Kansas City? This one happened on October 10th. A view from Liberty, Missouri, away from the city lights as well. Brandy Roberts got a great show. Now, the recent uptick of the Aurora Borealis spotted over these southern latitudes is all related to the current solar cycle. And according to NOAA, the sun goes through a natural solar cycle every 11 years. Right now, you've guessed it, we are in the solar maximum. You can really tell a big difference between the sun at the maximum and the minimum. At the maximum stage, we have a very busy sun, and the magnetic poles end up flipping. Therefore, it turns really active. It's at this moment that the sunspots turn more visible and is the origin of solar flares that send large amounts of energy and radiation into space, sometimes heading right to Earth. So let me explain more. That active sun that we have noticed lately and a little bit more recently sends these charged particles associated with a solar storm into the Earth's upper atmosphere. Luckily, the Earth's magnetic field protects us mostly from the solar wind, but sometimes, if strong enough, the extra charged particles are able to make it through the northern and the southern poles. This is when we get the great show of the northern lights, and if strong enough, we can see them as far south as Kansas City. The charged particles will then collide with oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere, which creates the variety of colors dancing in the sky. Have you wondered why we get all different colors out there? Well, it has to do with the oxygen and the nitrogen. First off, oxygen gives us the reds and the green light. Meanwhile, nitrogen brings out the pink and the blue lights. Unfortunately, though, as beautiful as these solar events are, they can cause big problems to the power grids and other devices such as our satellites, radio, and GPS, which is really important for forecasters. Now, NASA and NOAA cannot pinpoint when we reach the peak of our solar maximum period until they find a decline in solar activity. But space weather forecasters are estimating the impressive solar storms and northern light sightings like these, even in urban areas, could last another year. From solar cycles to ocean cycles, there are so many pieces to the puzzle when it comes to understanding weather patterns. Meteorologist Cassie Wilson now joins us with a look at how the ocean is setting up for the winter.
It's the catchphrase that everybody searches for every year. Is this winter going to be El Nino or La Nina? Well, the National Weather Service is forecasting La Nina conditions. So what does that even mean? Well, we watch the ocean and monitor the temperatures there. And right now we're neutral, meaning there's not an above average trend or a below average trend. And it is forecast to continue to cool, which would kick off La Nina. So as we talk about the weather pattern, we kind of mirror what's going on in the ocean, and that kicks off off. A high pressure over the Aleutian coastline, bringing in wetter weather and colder conditions to the northern tier of the country and drier and warmer conditions to areas to our south. So Kansas City is kind of stuck right in the middle, and honestly, some storms tend to pick up steam as they pass us. But as we talk about snow impacts under La Nina conditions, it tends to be snowier than average around the Great Lakes as well as out towards the Pacific Northwest, with drier conditions for the Rockies, the Sierra Nevada mountain ranges, and Appalachia. Kansas City is kind of the cutoff here, and when we look at snow trends under La Nina conditions, we tend to get a boost under moderate La Nina, but if we do get into a La Nina, it will be weak, which means there's not a whole lot that the snow influence will be feeling here under those conditions, as we tend to be right near normal for snow. But rain, that's a different story. We tend to see rainier conditions under a weak La Nina. So when it comes down to snow versus rain under La Nina, there's not much we can tell you about the snow trend, but it does tend to nudge more so rainier in the winter under weak La Nina. Well, La Nina may not be giving us a lot of clues about what to expect this winter. There's another climate pattern we have to watch to understand cold snaps. Meteorologist Wes Peary has a look at how the wind that flows around the North Pole influences our weather.
The Arctic Oscillation, or AO for short, is really just another way that we can describe what the polar vortex is doing. The polar vortex is in the stratosphere, which is 10 to 30 miles above us. Meanwhile, we live, and all of the weather we experience is in the troposphere, which is 5 to 9 miles above us vertically. And so it's just an expression of what the polar vortex is doing. If it's in a stable phase or a positive phase, then that means the cold air is quickly flowing around the Arctic, leading us home here in Kansas and Missouri with warmer or above average temperatures. But when we enter a negative phase, that means the polar vortex is actually weaker, which sounds strange because it's very dangerous for us when the polar vortex becomes weak. But what happens is little pieces of the vortex and cold air then ooze off and make their way all across the United States. And this coincides with some spots maybe getting above average temperatures and other spots in the United States getting well below average temperatures. Arctic outbreaks of air, which can lead to snow and very cold ice that forms on the roads and the sidewalks, especially during the overnight periods when temperatures can get as cold as -25. So how do you get rid of the ice when it's -25 outside? There's a special type of salt to use. I'll explain all the different types coming up.
Nothing.
Nada.
Zero.
It will cost you.
When winter hits, surfaces become icy fast. But before you grab that bag of ice melts, it's important to know which ones work best. Let's look at the chemistry behind 3 popular types of ice melts: calcium chloride, sodium chloride, and magnesium chloride. Ice melt works by lowering the freezing point of water. First, let's look at how ice forms. Because of the molecular structure of water, molecules join and freeze together in the shape of hexagons. The different chloride or salt solutions, known as ice melts, disrupt the formation of the ice by interfering with the molecular structure. Rock salt, or sodium chloride, which is the most familiar type of rock salt, is effective up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Another type of ice melt used is called calcium chloride, and it becomes necessary because it can melt or prevent ice from forming down to -25 degrees. Not only does it provide melting power down to bitterly cold temperatures, but it also has a special reaction that occurs called an exothermic reaction that causes the temperature near the ice melt to increase. Let's see this reaction happen in real life. So I have 3 cups of water and 3 types of salt or chloride solutions. I'm going to add each type of salt to the water and take its temperature and watch what happens. First up, sodium chloride, which is just regular salt. Let's give the temperature a check inside of the rock salt. It's about 66, 67 degrees. Still about the same. Now to the calcium chloride. The temperature immediately shot up around 10 or 15 degrees. That's because of the exothermic reaction. It's giving off heat. You can tell by each type of test here that the calcium chloride is by far the stronger of the types of ice melt. But this is just water. Let's see how it performs breaking the ice. Let's give it a second and see how the ice starts to melt on these different types. So after about a minute, I can already hear the ice cracking on the magnesium chloride, the calcium chloride. The beads, a lot of them have already started to be ingrained in the ice because of that exothermic reaction. The rock salts, it started to melt away, but no cracking and just really not as good of a melting power. So what does all this tell us? If you just have a regular snowy driveway and temperatures are staying above 15 degrees, rock salt works just fine. If you have a really, really icy driveway and it's very, very cold outside, let's say -20, calcium chloride will be your best bet. So I hope you learned something and I hope you know the right type of ice melt to buy no matter how cold it gets this year in Kansas City.
Kansas City is not just located in the heart of America. It is right in the middle of some of the most precious land in the world. To the west, hard-red winter wheat is grown from Nebraska to Texas, also known as the breadbasket of the world. Now, to the east is the Corn Belt, where almost 1/3 of the world's corn is grown from Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri east to Ohio. Needless to say, the weather is of utmost importance to these locations. A flash drought took shape in the Corn Belt at the end of the growing season. 8% of the main belt was in drought on August 27th, and by October 29th, it skyrocketed to 81%. Now, fortunately, with a small effect to the crops, as most of the corn and soybeans matured in the nick of time. But if this continues through the winter into the spring, there will be big problems for the 2025 crops. Now, fortunately, again, a new and unique weather pattern sets up in October and November and begins to cycle through the winter, spring, and summer of the next year. This is the LRC, Lezak's recurring cycle, the center of a complex atmospheric puzzle. Other factors like El Nino, La Nina, and the Arctic Oscillation act along and with the LRC. Now, this new pattern has set up to be an active one across the plains and Midwest. During the last month, the key growing areas have received 100 to 600% of average rainfall, and in many locations there has been more rain from the end of October to the middle of November than there was from early July to the end of October. Amarillo has had its wettest November ever. Kansas City is one of the locations that has had more rain from the end of October to the middle of November. So July 5th to October 23rd, 4.94 inches of rain occurred, 14.6 is average, 10 inches below average. Since October 23rd to November 18th, 6.47 inches of rain, 4.56 above average, and the average is 1.91. So that is why we have seen a decrease in the drought. So the drought in the Corn Belt has dropped from 81% on October 29th, and in just 2 short weeks dropped all the way to 64% and continuing to drop. The winter wheat areas saw the drought drop from 57% to now 43% and also continuing to drop. What has caused this big reversal in the weather? Well, storm systems have been reaching their peak strength in the Rockies before they enter the plains and Midwest and track up in towards the Great Lakes across the critical growing areas. This allows storm systems to slow down, pick up Gulf of Mexico moisture, then they turn that moisture into beneficial precipitation as they track northeast across the plains and Midwest. So what does this mean for the winter and the drought? Precipitation is likely to be above to much above average for all of the winter wheat and into the corn and soybean growing areas, including Kansas City. So this should put an end to the drought before the 2025 growing season begins. Temperatures will likely become much above to even much above average. Overall, this has been a fairly warm pattern. Now, that does not mean we will not have 1 to 2 7-day stretches of Arctic cold. So what does this mean for snow in Kansas City? Our weather team predictions at the end of the show. We've talked about America's breadbasket, but let's change gears to something more sweet. Coming up next, Cassie Wilson will join us with a look at how chocolate is impacted by the weather.
It's a labor of love.
I love swimming, so I want everyone to.
Kansas City doesn't usually come to mind. That is until you meet Julie House, the Grand Master chocolatier at Panache.
This is luxury chocolate. It's meant to be experienced, and that means small bites, letting it hit your palate, letting it melt, getting all the flavors involved. What we do is a little different with our chocolate in the fact that we don't use paste, extracts, artificial ingredients, artificial preservatives, even the toppings, it's all real flavors, real ingredients.
But making some of the world's best chocolate in a warm and humid climate isn't an easy task.
We do this all by hand, so we're talking small batch. So each individual, you'll hear the little tapping in the background. Each individual chocolate piece is being done one by one. Wow. So even if somebody walks by back and forth as you're making it, the airflow will affect it too. It changes it, absolutely, yes.
Beyond Kansas City's weather, global climate change is also impacting chocolate production. Rising global temperatures and shifting rainfall patterns are disrupting its ideal conditions, reducing yields and increasing prices.
Just this last 6 months, chocolate has increased 40% to 100%.
To prevent passing the price on to the consumer, Julie focuses on local.
So we try really hard to keep it as close to nature as we can. Our creams locally sourced. I mean, it's like I try to do as much locally sourcing as I can do too, which helps keep the cost down.
But Julie doesn't stop there.
We also do a lovely box that we do a partnership with the KC Ballet. It's the Nutcracker box. So we do that every year, and 15% of the proceeds go back to the Kansas City Ballet.
So the next time you enjoy chocolate from Panache, remember, you're not just indulging in a delicious treat. You're supporting a local artisan, connecting our community, one bite at a time. So I didn't want to hoard all the chocolate. Julie was kind enough to make everybody individual crafted boxes for us to try, and I think...
Pretty.
Oh, wow.
Wes, you got a spicy one to try.
I do. Am I going first?
Yeah,
All right,
what are you trying?
Mango habanero.
Oh, gosh.
That's the one that I got to try.
Too much steam next to me here.
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not really like burning my face off, so it's good so far.
Good sweet with the spice. I have a little strawberry.
Oh.
Here it comes.
Yeah,
Well done.
the burn comes
It's
later
delayed,
with that one.
That was so nice.
Jeff, you were really picky with your box.
Yeah, no spicy.
Only dark chocolate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you're going to try dark chocolate?
Yeah, let me try this.
Dark chocolate. It's a good choice.
Very, very good.
So I have one of the brand new Nutcracker chocolates. It is a chai masala. So I'm super pumped. I got to try the spicy one.
Ooh.
That was really good, but...
Sounds like a tea. Chai masala.
We love that. Nice job. Nice job.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's fun to think about weather and chocolate related.
This will be
really
good with
good.
a glass of milk as well to help with the heat a little bit with the chocolate that comes with it.
Yeah, you need milk with yours
now.
Neutralize it, yes.
I don't know. I think, the chai is delicious.
Nice.
And, well, as good as these chocolates are, we got to talk about that recipe for snow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, well, these have perked up my appetite. My snow prediction, it may not perk up your appetite.
Okay.
I think that, well, we have seen the storms really start to roll in the last month or so.
Yep.
We've really struggled to see the cold air. So I'm going real low. My total, 8 inches.
Wow, 8 inches. Well, I agree that we have had a lot of storm systems and there is a concern of cold air, but I think that there's enough storm systems that we're going to have more than 8 inches of snow. So I'm going to go 20 inches of snow above average. Above average.
So below average, above average.
I was kind of like, it's either going to snow a lot or hardly at all. And I was like, you know what? Average it is, right there in the middle. 17 inches is the forecast for me.
Okay, and I'm going on the low end as well. Kind of same thoughts here with the warm trend, and I'm going 11. Lucky number 11.
11. Well, on that note, I'm going to have another bite of chocolate.
All right, and that brings our team average to 14 inches for the season. So as we say goodnight, we also want to wish you a happy holiday season.
And from football to freezes and chocolate this winter, stay healthy and warm out there.
And remember to be kind to one another.
And together we can embrace the challenges winter brings and the beauty it creates in Kansas City. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.
Get ready for winter. Sponsored by NFM.